Okay, great. Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. So appreciate it. And this was a really fun project that I embarked on last fall with my students, and these are my superstar students who I wanted to invite to present with me because I think that this is a really cool project to pursue. I want to show you how accessible it is, and it's something that can be replicated and, of course, scaled up if needed. And so I just kind of want to walk you through what we tried to do with our program here. I'll let them introduce themselves during their part, and so we'll just kind of move on from here, although I noticed. There we go. Okay, good. So this is the cover to our textbook. It's Music in Your Words, Navigating the First Year Writing Chorus. And I have kind of a QR code there if you want to jump out to it. The QR code is not on our cover, although that's kind of a cool idea. And then we licensed our work as a CC by NC, which means that anybody can reuse it. They just can't reuse it for commercial purposes. And our tagline was Unleash Your Creative Rhythm with our writing guide that will help you compose your own masterpiece. And so as you can see there, we had kind of a theme of music going on. What's fun about this project is it didn't start that way. And so it was just kind of an organic part of the whole process. So the objective was to create a student-authored OER in about 13 weeks. And I really just wanted to make sure that students had some ownership over their own learning. The English 103 workshop course is a pretty open course. You can kind of do a lot of things with it. And most of the time, what is done with it is to kind of work on your own English 101 essays and to kind of workshop those and to serve as a mentor to those students. But I thought we would put a little bit of a twist on the application piece and to actually have students do some of the teaching for themselves initially, right, during this process, but as an end product to actually help and teach others who would be users of the textbook. And I thought it would just, like I said, just be kind of a neat alternative pathway to learning. And I always like goal-oriented and product-oriented types of projects. And so I always like folks to come out at the end with something to kind of show for their time and their work. And of course, I just wanted to make sure that we leveraged as many open resources as possible. I know that cost is a huge, factor in students, time on campus. And so anytime that we can use free materials as possible, I think it's always best for them. And our audience for the textbook is students in first year composition, namely 101 and 103, and of course then teachers too, who would be teaching it and who could use this as for supplementary info to their courses and to use the student examples that are in there. So as part of the process, I didn't want to go into it so willy-nilly where it was just like, oh, we're doing this book and we're doing a book. It's like, where do you start, right? I figured it would be really important to try to put some specificity around some roles. And within those roles, of course, students could choose what they wanted to do. So I thought to myself, and if I did this again, I may not do this exact same thing, but I needed a place to start. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go into it with, a rhetoric type of piece. I wanted some essay prompts from the different 101 courses, some quizzes and activities to kind of put that interactive piece in there, some multimedia resources, and then just some tips and tricks. So, students always want some bite-sized, like, give me the good stuff. And so we wanted to kind of provide that. Students were also asked to include an individual model essay. So ideally, we had one class. So I did this over with 2 classes. So one class did the narrative essay and the other class did the argument, and they chose those. So again, in retrospect, may not do it that way because one comes at the very beginning and the argument comes at the very end. And so there's some drawbacks to that a little bit. And so I just said, hey, the model essay should ideally come from the chapter that you're working on, right? It would make the most sense. They also had to each write a short bio, and then students had decision-making over the title, the cover image, and then, of course, any of the sections that they did. I did write the front matter, the introduction, and then I also compiled as part of this student project testimonials in the back matter. And I'll pull up a text here in just a little bit.
I think we were fighting over the mouse.
Oh, were we? Sorry. Oh, you take.
Sorry, I was just gonna move this over here.
Perfect. So the way that I compiled student project testimonials was I had students just complete a quick survey at the very end, just so I could capture some written information and anything that seemed, fairly articulate, I threw on the back. Okay, so there was no major thing there. So of course I wanted to try to use as many free materials and accessible materials as possible. So we use the LC State Pressbook space. I'll show you that here in just a second. Google Docs. We used to share out documents and give some feedback there. Canvas, of course, internet and email. There was a lot of pen and paper stuff. And then we tried to use some free AI graphic sites and some royalty-free images. And then H5P, I put it at the bottom here, was the only paid piece. I didn't have to personally pay for it. Idaho does have an H5P account. You would just have to request that. So H5P is a platform. It's a tool. It's not really a platform. It's a set of tools that you can create any type of interactive. We should do an H5P workshop. This is cool. Okay, good. To create like quizzes, interactive elements, all sorts of different things. Yeah, neat. I should have linked that out. I don't know. Can I link this here? Yeah, I guess I can. Okay, great. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but we do have our own digital space. This was created for us. All the colleges have their own digital press. Right now, our book is the only one there. Yay, guys. Okay. And so hopefully we can just add to our directory here, but this is a pretty cool thing that we have that we can really highlight the work of both instructors and students. Okay, now I don't know how to get that. Oh, is it just here?
That one? Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so I won't really go into this. You can kind of see this on your screen here. But again, I wanted to create some sort of plan so that we would have some goals to kind of follow and things to get done and pieces to get into the book. And, as with most projects, you have a vision, you explain the vision, students are like, yeah, that sounds pretty good, and as things get rolling, they're like, okay, but once stuff starts going in the book, it's just like, okay, now I see it, and so really honestly until about not until like week 8, 9 type of thing did it really start to become more of a, oh my gosh, we are going to be authors of this textbook, this is going to be really neat. So that's about how I broke it up. Yeah, there was peer review as part of it, so I really tried to make this project replicate the types of skills that, you would be doing in a 101 course, which would be, of course, reading and doing some research and revising, giving feedback, brainstorming. So I really tried to use all pieces of the writing process as part of this project. Okay, turning it over to you. Let me know if you need me to fast forward anything. There you go. Yep, it's that one.
Hi there, my name is Devin Nardecchia. Just to give y'all a little bit of a history on myself. I was born in Austin, Texas, but I was raised here in the Lewis-Clark Valley, so I consider myself a local. I graduated from Clarkston High School right across the river, so some slight rivalries with some of the students here. I was also in the United States Marine Corps for 5 years. I did that immediately after high school. And then I moved on, worked a couple odd jobs here and there, and am now a freshman here at LCSE. Why did I choose to write the rhetoric lesson portion of the narrative half of the book? Firstly, nobody else wanted it. Nobody was raising their hands, and I figured I might as well. I also came to LCSE for a challenge. And writing out a lesson is definitely a bit of a challenge. I know that I want and need to improve my writing skills. So I saw this as a really good opportunity to test myself, to make sure that I could stay comprehensible and to get my point across. And when I was younger and in high school, I ended up deciding I wanted to be a teacher. I would do 20 years in the Marine Corps and go and be a junior ROTC instructor. Unfortunately, after my first year, I found out that was not my future. So it kind of did reignite that flicker of wanting to teach and pass on my knowledge. The method to the madness. I wanted to make things as simple as possible. I didn't want to write a big 12 pages on how to write a single 3-page essay. Something that I was always told is if you can't explain it to a child, you don't understand it enough. So I really wanted to dumb this down as much as I possibly could. Simplify. What I enlistee spoken out of. And I try to spend more time explaining the whys, why it is that we focus on rhetoric, why it is that we focus on the specific structure that we do. And I wanted to make it goal-oriented. During my time in the Marine Corps, having a goal ahead of me meant that we had a path forward. And if there was no path, it at least gave us a direction to build a path towards. And each portion of the lesson should point towards the end goal, finishing your essay and getting a perfect grade. What did I discover? Well, I discovered that I do really enjoy teaching. And even if teaching is not specifically going to be my future, I'm going to make sure that providing a path forward to education for future employees that I may have, or even my own children, that's going to be a top priority for me. I found out that there were elements of rhetoric that I did not know, and I didn't know the proper names of the rhetoric elements that I was using before. And I found out that I enjoy working on projects that don't necessarily pertain to my future. Even though education isn't the direction that I'm going with my degree, it's still really fun to work on it and to learn more. Pardon me.
So I'm Susan. My major is psychology. I am a freshman. I am a non-traditional student, so I got my GED because I homeschooled, and then I actually went into the workforce and did that for 7 years before I came to college. So that's a little bit about me. So
What did you do in the workforce? What was?
I was a dental assistant.
Okay.
Yeah. So my class did the argument chapter. I chose to do the rhetoric portion because I felt like it was the option where you could kind of be involved with everyone else and kind of see the project through and get to collaborate with other people and really bring people together as a team. And so that felt important to me. And I wanted to, as I was starting to research my role specifically and what I was going to be doing for our chapter, I decided that I felt it might be beneficial if we could relate it to how something as simple as English 101 actually really does pertain to what we go on and do after school, and connect it with persuasive writing that we have to do once we're out of school, like if you are applying for jobs or graduate school, asking for raises, those sorts of things. So I wanted to kind of find a way to include that. What I learned during my role is that it takes a lot of effort to really decide how you want to say something that everyone can understand, and getting feedback from, the people you're collaborating with in your class, but also to consider how other students are going to perceive what we're writing. I learned what OER is, and I thought it was really cool that Professor Minervini let us do this and have this opportunity to work together as a class to get to be a part of this, because like she said, textbooks are really expensive, and so when we do have those resources where we can not have to spend that money on a textbook, it's nice, and I think that others feel that same way.
Yeah, so things to consider. H5P. The state of Idaho does pay for instructor access, but students can't create H5P themselves. And so I had to have students create what they wanted. So they would give me, the things for the crossword, and so then I would have to, upload that into the H5P crossword thing. Not that that is, it was no heavy lift on my part. It's just that because of that barrier there without access to it, the students didn't have all ownership over it, but they were able to play around with different H5P things and figure out the ones that they wanted. And so in that sense, it worked out fine. Just being mindful, just of the scope and sequence. Sometimes things kind of can get off track easily, because students have their own, essays that they're working on. And sometimes, it was kind of sometimes a hard balance between making sure that students felt like they were getting their own essays looked at and they were getting individually mentored, while also ensuring we had some time for the project. And so I typically broke the class up. It's a 50-minute course, which is also a tight timeline to kind of work with, or time period to work with. And so I think we did about depending on the day, 20 or 30 minutes on their own work, and then 20 to 30 minutes on the project, and kind of split it that way so that folks didn't feel as if like, oh, all of their effort was going into this project and none of their own work was getting looked at. So I hope that turned out okay in terms of me being able to look at your own papers and things like that. So but again, it's a tight thing. Also 13 weeks, because, the first week you just kind of introduce the project, and then the second week you kind of, just sort of do some brainstorming and things like that. And so just, it would probably make it easier if it was a 15, 16-week course. I also like to do celebrations, like full-on celebrations. I felt like that 13th week, because this was right before Thanksgiving break, and everybody's just, you're tapped out, but you're also excited for break, but we're also putting some last minute things into the text. It was kind of like, like do this. Oh, by the way, congratulations. This was awesome. Bye. And so I really felt like we didn't get a chance to really kind of celebrate, our product. But here's some reflections. I think the reflections is a little bit longer. Just with careful planning, I think it's very doable for folks to do a student authored text project. I felt like I said, the application piece was there. It really melded well with what students were doing in 101, and just using the application aspect in just a new and different way. But like I said, there was also like a lot of fun and whimsy. We were always having fun in each of our classes. We were always laughing and finding interesting things to talk about. And I think one of the cooler parts of the project is actually when we did the title of the piece, and I think you folks can talk about that too. But let me see if I can jump back in here. So we had, like I said, we were doing a lot of things with like I think this was actually Devin's class, and then cover was more Susan's class here. But we were just kind of doing some brainstorming. Like I had them the week before, just think about some titles and kind of contribute to a sheet here. And then we just kind of wrote some of these. And so these were all the students, examples here. In some cases, some folks were using like some AI stuff, and others, they were just, using their brain or tapping into things. And then at some point, we had, we did music in your words. So people liked that. And so we were like, okay, great. That's good. But now we need a subtitle, right? We have to be like super academics here. We need a subtitle. Okay. And so then we did, we decided on navigating the first year writing course, right? It was first year writing course. And then all of a sudden, one student piped up. We were like, okay, great, we got it. This is good. This is great. We're moving on. And she's like, you know what? I think we should change course to chorus. And then it was that aha moment. It was just like,
yeah, it was just, oh, it's so obvious.
yeah. And we're like, and then all of a sudden it wasn't off. And there was like that. And then we were like, music, And so then it just turned the project into something a little bit new and different. And it was just so cool how that happened. And so the students were really on board with like, let's kind of have this like undercurrent of a music kind of theme. And so in the text itself, not sure if I'm navigating all of this properly here. There is in the introduction a part where, let's see if I can grab the link. Where is our book? Here it is. If I can get to that. There we go. So in our textbook here, under read, I'm not sure why my thing is here, and meet the authors. Each of the authors wrote in here songs that inspire them to write and create. And so then we had, it was just really fun to be able to just like share. And during this session too, students were like writing their stuff. And, oh, you like that artist? Oh, I love that song. Or and again, it was just a lot of that sharing out, collaboration with different pieces of the project that were really neat and that, I couldn't have planned even if I wanted to. So yeah, that's that. Let me get back to our thing here. Sorry about that. It's easier for me to do this. Sorry for folks on Zoom there. I do feel like, so yeah, that kind of talked to the flexibility piece and just how projects, you just never know how they're going to kind of change and ebb and flow, and that's kind of fun, but have students forge their own learning paths. Again, when Devin was talking and when Susan was talking, I was just really struck by that, these different takeaways that each of them had and how their different approaches and how, these, just the variety of ways in which you applied the information and thought about how it might actually impact your future, which is really neat. So this OER, what's cool about it is it's not done, right? As I think Devin mentioned, it's only halfway done. We have 2 more classes coming up next fall who are going to complete the other 2 chapters. So they will get the choice of, these guys had 4 to choose from. They get the informative mode, woo-woo, or the analytical one. Sometimes folks are like, I'm scared of that one. So that will bring its own challenges there, but it's neat because, again, we'll have a whole new set, a crew to add to this textbook. And then finally for me, it helps me to highlight students and their amazing work that they're doing as undergraduates, and to have opportunities like this to present in front of you. And then also we're going to write a proposal for Open Ed 24, and hopefully we'll present at that national conference, in a hybrid way. So yeah. Okay, so go ahead.
Some of the project reflections and benefits that I noticed was it helped build confidence within the subject matter. As Seneca tells us, while we teach, we learn. And it also gave us as students a chance to pass down our knowledge to future generations that we may or may not ever meet. And as Abdul Kalim said, if people remember me as a good teacher, that would be the greatest honor.
I liked when, everything was coming together and we were picking the cover and just seeing everyone else be excited and like this project we had worked on all semester really coming together, and then thinking about, we're trying to pick this catchy cover that other people are going to like. And I thought that was really neat. And I think that it was good to be able to work as a team and kind of have a deadline, so to speak, at the end of the semester to collaborate together and get to know one another, and just produce something together and get to see everybody have their own roles. So I liked that.
Good.
Welcome to click on the chat to
Yeah, or you can stop sharing if
stop
that's
sharing.
the last slide, and then see you all
Over
bigger.
here.
Actually, it's probably over there
This one, okay, great.
somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Right, Sarah, you're into the music there. Okay, good. Perfect. Neat.
So can I?
Oh, questions. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm just like so impressed with what you all accomplished in this short period of time. I think it's amazing, and you must feel so proud. But that's kind of my question. Like, your book is out there now. How does it feel now that you have released your child into the world?
I'm still trying to convince myself that I've published written works. It still is a little bit surreal for me. It doesn't feel as if I did this.
What I love too, and I hope it's okay that I share this, but with Devin, Devin was in my 101 class, and so we got to see a lot of each other.
Yeah.
But his narrative that he wrote for my class, he said, because each student had to write a model essay. He's like, can I not put that one in, and can I write a different one? I was like, you're telling me you want to take on extra work by writing a new narrative? Yes, of course. This is great. So, but I thought that was a really fulfilling process too for you to be able to really get your thoughts out about why you left the Marines. And so it was just a neat extra path that you took in your publishing journey.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I didn't think the first essay was appropriate for the book because it was about alcohol and the
Well, there's that.
homebrewing community is like, I'm not gonna push that out to freshmen who are more than likely not old enough to partake in that.
That's a responsible choice too. Yeah, so it ended up being really good.
I just change stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about everything I've ever published. I'm just like, oh, now I need to. So I get that.
They go, all the students have admin access to it, so they can go in and change and fix whatever it is that they want. Yeah, although that is one drawback of being in the same book, as we well know.
Yeah.
If you're in the same page together and you're making changes, it depends on what Pressbooks wants to save, right? If another student, sometimes it'll. So that's fun. Yeah, we had to start calling pages out.
Could you do the editing in Canvas on a page and then transfer? Because Canvas saves the pages and saves a page history really easily. And so like there's always a backup.
Right. And the only page that was an issue on was about the authors, because I wanted them to put their bios in there, and everybody's putting them in at the last minute. Yeah, so it was that. How many times did you write your bio?
Several.
You're like, I'm here, this is me. I'm done. Yeah.
I have a different question. So you talked about sort of breaking it down through the weeks, but I'm wondering, all in all, how many sections? It sounds like you had a different class work on a different chapter.
Yeah.
So how did you break it down in terms of distribution of work by the class, and kind of how many students overall worked on it? And then how long did it end up being?
Yeah. Can I show you? Can I go back to this? Does it do this one here? Okay, great. See if I can. With this one, I'm like, I don't know which one. Which mouse am I looking at here? Right.
With either.
I think it was in this roles sheet. This is where I had, a little bit of explanation on what you, if you for most, it's a very small class, so it's usually capped out at 10. And I think Susan, yours was a little bit bigger maybe than, I don't know, one of ours was really small. It only had like 6 students in it, but some of the students paired up. And I like that idea because some folks really like to work with somebody and not feel like everything is on them. These two, like I said, were superstars, and we're like, I'm just going to take this on all by myself, which was awesome. Yeah, so students would pop into their roles here, and so they just knew that this was going to be their focus. So, for example, like the tips and tricks folks for the narrative, they were like, well, who are we going to get tips and tricks from? And so, we would have these conversations. Well, who do you think you should get tips and tricks from? And so they interviewed other students, instructors. They also interviewed people from the newspaper. Because they're storytellers, right? They interviewed tutors. So, I would help to gently guide them in directions, but they did all of that work, all of that back work, and emailing and corresponding with folks to try to get essay prompts from, professors and things like that. Yeah. Cool.
So I've got some comments, questions about, I don't want to, if someone else has them, I don't want to. I'm good to go.
Go ahead, Martin. There's one in the chat too that you can get after.
So first of all, I just want to congratulate you. I mean, I'm seriously just blown away. I think it's just amazing. So what a great experience. I mean, you guys probably walked into that class first day You have no idea. He starts talking about OER textbooks and you're like, what? I mean, how awesome is it that at the end, what you're able to produce? I mean, it's amazing. So really congratulations to all of you. I hope you do go to a conference. I thought I heard you say maybe a hybrid conference or something.
Well, Open Ed is was it in New Jersey or something like that? I was like, well, are y'all planning?
Yeah,
Really?
You should take them in person and go.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Into Jersey, yeah.
But I'm like, because of budget, we probably will do
But you
the.
know, the humanities, they're flush with money.
Oh, okay.
And you know, they have a what are they? It's
The
the
institutional development grants.
Institutional development grant. My office, I mean, to show this off and showcase it, it would be well worth it. So anyway, I hope that can be arranged logistically. So I have a question about, and I don't want you to violate any FERPA rules or anything. So how many students total did this involve? And it was in different sections of English 103?
Yeah,
So was
So
it,
counting
you
very
teach
quickly.
3 sections or was that?
it was 2 sections.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2 sections of 103. And I mean, was it like everyone had to participate? Or did you give them like an opt-out option, or this was just like, hey, this is the class, this is what we're doing?
I think there's one student who's not listed on here, but everybody else is. And I didn't give an opt-out, although if somebody had been, adverse to doing something like this, then I would have, said that's okay. I did say that if you don't want to put your essay in there, you did not have to do that. That was specific. But as far as, creating quizzes and things like that, I didn't really think that that was too much of an opt-out type of thing. I mean, some of that stuff is like more, fun than anything. But yeah, everybody had an option to not put in their essay if they did not want to.
Okay, and follow up to that, and again, not to violate FERPA, but did all the students pass the class? And was there like some correlation to their success in English 101? Because I know that English 103 is sort of like a companion, right, course to English 101. And so, and it may just be anecdotal, I guess, but this experience that they went through, that you all went through, do you think it made a difference in how you worked in English 101 or even your other courses that you're taking, so it may be, Amy, but maybe the students as well could answer that question.
One of the big things that I noticed was this project just helped me build up my confidence. I had been out of school for about 10 years and was suddenly hopping back into school. So I wasn't really confident with my writing skills. And then I walk into 103 on the first day and I get told, like, you're writing a textbook. Get prepared. And then like the very next day when we're choosing roles, it's like, hey, I'm writing the rhetoric course. I'm writing the lesson. So this project just really helped me build up that confidence. It helped me get into creative writing in my own time. And even in my my 102 course, I feel like it's helping coast me along. I'm not second guessing myself on every paragraph like I was before. So that's where the main benefit came for me.
I mean, in terms of 101 with 103, it was really nice to be able to have 2 professors looking over my assignments and giving feedback on areas that, my writing was good or areas that I could stop doing so many run-on sentences, those sorts of things.
You too?
It's wordy.
I felt like that part was helpful. It also then when we were doing our assignments in 101, I was like, oh, this one, I really want to use that one in my 103. So I felt like they really did go hand in hand.
One of the neat things, again, it was just like, sometimes I would just, just sit back and listen to the conversations. And I remember particularly with argument, folks were asking Susan, like, okay, well, what did you cover in there? And like throwing around terms like counter argument and rebuttal. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is, crack for professors. I love it, So when they're like actually throwing around, like you said, Devin, just kind of being more comfortable with terminology and like things that, you are using in essays, right? The function of things that you're like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing when I'm, addressing opposing views and things like that was kind of neat. Was there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a chat comment or something.
Any students who felt any discomfort? Yeah. About the process and how that was supported. Yeah. Did you feel any discomfort during the process? Maybe that first day was scary, right? You talked about that.
It was, I think I didn't start like actually feeling comfortable with the project until about week 6, 7.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Because you're talking so much in an abstract, right? We're doing this and this is going to go in there and this is what it's going to look like. But until you have an actual book space. And I do want to also give kudos to my friend at ISU, Ryan, who helped with the Pressbooks tutorial. So remember that day where we were practicing, we were like, find a picture and how do you insert a picture in there? And how do you insert a video and how do you embed things? And we were dealing with HTML and a little bit of code in the back and stuff like that. And so that was just really neat to be able to just kind of take a peek around how a book is actually made and published in that digital space. But that could have been kind of scary too, just kind of working with some of the tools maybe.
Yeah, I'm already not very good with computers. And then working, it felt like I was building a website. Or
Yeah.
I felt a lot of like I was watching the hackers in the old 90s movies. Just like getting into the code, I'm like,
Yeah.
But that tutorial definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of think, I mean, on that note, but also broader in terms of how my class specifically took on the project in general, it was kind of neat to see people's strong points. So like some people are better with computers, but or whatever the case may be, or if someone was not, some weeks maybe putting in as much effort, other people that were able to were. And so I think that that's the neat thing about how this played out, because it's like that in real life too. When you collaborate with people at work, like there are going to be times where some people can put in more effort than others can.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems like it was a very natural process that happened in the class. People would just take on more or fill the voids where they needed to be. So
Yeah.
I really love that you said that, Susan, because I think, so often I hear from students like, oh, I hate group work or something. But my experience is that in the professional world, like that's pretty much all you do, right? Yeah. So having these experiences and just kind of understanding, like they're going to be, areas where someone's going to step up and someone else might not be able to do as much. That really is a really useful professionalizing lesson. And I see Amy's comment in the chat, those are great job skills to develop in this project.
And I think that's a good, piece of advice for me for the fall is to kind of preface that a little bit, to surface that a little bit, like, hey, in this project, there might be times, especially if you're working in a pair, you're going to have really busy weeks and you might not be able to do as much. Or, you might just be having a hard week and just can't focus on whatever it is, but, it's all kind of a combined sort of team effort that will just kind of support each other. I think I could do that probably better than I did. What I did more of was I have this really cool idea, and I know it's going to turn out amazing, and it may not be perfect, but we're going to totally kill it. And so it was more like that kind of like, little risky enthusiasm there to get people pumped. But yeah, so I think I can now go, okay, we've got a good product. Now let's enhance it. And as I told these folks too, like, you can just keep adding to it as much as you want to. I hope I'm sharing this. I don't know if it says you're sharing screen, but I don't know if
You're
I'm
sharing the Meet the Authors, is that
yeah,
right?
yeah. Or okay, great. So I just wanted to show you just here in the index. So this was Devin's section here on narrative. And then again, you can kind of see a little bit of that music kind of theme coming through in here. I do want to highlight also David's work in here. So this is, again, it's kind of that, it was very much student led. I wanted some sort of multimedia because students, I learn through videos. And I know students like videos too, to kind of learn things, but David from the start, he was like, okay, so you want me to find some videos? He's like, I have this cousin who's got this new podcast, and I'm just going to listen to his podcast. So that's kind of how he approached it. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but yeah, you go ahead and listen to so he would in class listen to his cousin's podcast. Well, he ended up just writing just this really great thing and tying it into narrative and storytelling. And again, I could have never done kind of this, or even set that up, even if I wanted to. And so, yeah, I just was like, this is just so cool. I was just really, really proud and impressed. And again, he did all of this stuff, and I never would have done that myself. So I just think that's a really neat sort of thing. And I want to also highlight, each of them took different, kind of pathways for your stuff. You were really into taking pieces from other, OERs or reading, and then just rewriting things yourself, and just really kind of applying that. And you took very much this is how argument is going to be used in your future and in practical ways. And so it was just really neat to see how multiple approaches were in there. And I think this was kind of neat, tips for storytelling. And so again, they just, grabbed from professionals, from teachers, from tutors.
Amy, did you have a set guideline as to how many pages they had to create, or or how long a chapter had to be? Or
I didn't, no. Yeah. It was just more, however.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it ends up, you end up putting in.
Yeah, exactly.
It ends up being the length of it. Yeah.
So this was an example of I think this was an H5P in here. Yeah. So, so that was kind of neat. So again, they just gave me all the clues and whatever, and came up with that based on, narrative terminology. But then I had to just put it into the H5P thing. So that was kind of neat. And let's see at the end here. So in each of them, so students would put their different types of essays. I think I still have to add one essay in there. And then, here's some nice project testimonials. So that's good. Yeah. Any other questions? I hope you try this. If you have any questions, I'm here to help in any way. I don't consider myself necessarily an OER expert, but I've done a few of them now. And so I think I could help with press books if you ever needed help with that, or with H5P. And yeah, so it's just a really, I think, rewarding project that I'm just so super proud of all of you about. So thanks.
So good. Really enjoyed that.
Here. And thanks, folks, for coming, especially from down south. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here.